So Alonzo, and let me preface, I know Alonzo, like Dark Tony, polarizes, if for different reasons. Alonzo put out a fairly strong video asking difficult questions about Lily and Michael, Mr. Osa Rinder. But I will focus just on one of the questions, and admittedly, Alonzo, being fairly honest, says, well, this is a legit question. It may not be a strong question for Rinder. And we'll also get into Aaron and Jeffrey Augustine and whether we can ask them difficult questions.
Of evidence wiped clean of blood and fingerprints at the crime scene where Kyle Brennan died. Now, I'm not saying Mike knows who wiped that evidence clean. I do know that he knows why they would have been wiped clean.
Let me give the details fairly quick. Kyle, will say, died in mysterious circumstances. It's YouTube. I can't accuse David Miscavige of murder. Allegedly, he was murdered. Kyle essentially visited his father in Florida at the Mecca of Scientology, and something went very, very wrong. He was found dead in a couple of days. Very puzzling circumstances. Denise Miscavige was involved. She was linked to Kyle's father, who was in Scientology, and it seems that Denise, her husband, and Tom, the father, are involved in a murder conspiracy cover-up. Allegedly. But there are many difficult questions about that case. Again, given Mike's background in OSA, maybe he doesn't know anything because Kyle, that death happened in 2007. That is the year officially Rinder left. So would he have precise details? Maybe not. But it's hard to believe he doesn't have some information on such a big scandal tied to Miscavige. Just out of self-interest, you'd think he developed a lot of relationships while he was on the inside. It's hard to believe those all went away when he left the church. So we can ask Michael some tough questions about Kyle. But again, legitimately, he might not know. He doesn't know everything, so some ignorance is legitimate. But why are Mike and Lily not talking about Kyle today on their podcasts, on their YouTube channels? Why wasn't this on the Aftermath TV show? A lot of questions there why certain questions, certain tragedies weren't focused on. And Lily knows about Kyle. She was told about it. And she reacted very badly. Very, very badly. She was not eager to learn things. She was like, I don't care about that. Why are you bringing this up? You need to focus on that. That's not my job. She got really angry. So that was not a good thing. I'm not going to stand up or defend that. That was pretty terrible. But now let's move to Jeffrey and Aaron and then discussing a different tragedy, but we still have the same problem of where are the limits here about ethics as well as knowledge about these tragedies.
I'm describing it as a Scientologist would.
Please.
It's a generality. It's sort of forwarding an enemy line. It's sort of en theta. Like it's taking. Don't get me wrong. I love the fact that he said it, but I'm saying the fact that he did it would have been something that would have gotten Stan reported by most Scientologists in that forum.
I'm not getting into the details of that tragedy. If you want more on that, I'll put it on the Kubrick channel. That's my other channel. But essentially a very sad tragedy happened to the Scientology family. And good on them. They discussed it in a Scientology forum, which if you know Scientology is considered usually, no, don't do that. You can't do that. But it was done. So that's interesting. But again, we're back to, should we be discussing these things? Should we allow the family anonymity? I mean, I get what Aaron, because he's very happy to learn this thing. This makes David look like an idiot. It looks like the tyrannical empire is, people are starting to have doubts. That's good. It's now confirmed. I have no doubt Jeffrey has that report. He can share that. Okay, that's very devastating. That's really devastating that prominent Scientologists behind the scenes are like, they're asking questions. And if we know they're asking questions, that does tell us that Miscavige is not this all-powerful, all-knowing god, demon, elf lord. He is very vulnerable, and even true believers are having doubts. But we have the same problem, right, with the Aftermath TV show, these podcasts, Lily's documentaries, so on and so forth, that we are focusing on a few tragedies, but letting a lot of other tragedies slip away. Again, we have limits. Lily has always been upfront. She did it for the money. She wants more fame. No shame there. If you're exposing Scientology and make a lot of money, hey, more power to you. So insofar as it goes, The basic rationale is fine, but then we get into these more complicated cases like Kyle. It's like, but Kyle was not in Scientology. It's a Scientology tragedy, but he was not in Scientology. It's one thing to say that Leah can say, I was in Scientology, I have personal knowledge, I have privileged knowledge. You weren't in Scientology, you need to shut up. That's true, I was not in Scientology, so I will have a limit on my knowledge. However, if I do know something that you don't know, I have a privilege. So we need to be careful and go back and forth on what we can ask and what we can know. These are very, very difficult questions. So to sum up, I think with Rinder and Kyle, we can ask very tough questions. Now, maybe he doesn't know anything, but he has to endure tough questions because of his background. With Leah, I think we can ask questions, but let's be polite. Let's be civil. Just ask, please talk about Kyle. Why don't you talk about Kyle more? Please focus more on Kyle. Why aren't you doing more to help out Kyle's mother? Things like that. I will ask those questions if I can. You should be able to ask those questions if you can. With Aaron and Jeffrey, it should be midway. Not too tough, but also not, beat around the bush saying, okay, fine, you're discussing this tragedy. That's great. That's legit. Please, right? It makes David Miscavige look bad. Hey, Kyle might make David Miscavige look bad. Why aren't we discussing that? And the answer might be, well, that doesn't work with the narrative. That doesn't really help expand their channels. Maybe it's just not monetizable enough. Maybe it's not famous enough. Well, okay, but it's still a tragedy. We should discuss it, right? Well, we'll wait and see. I will ask Aaron politely the question, but I will ask it in a tough way sometimes. I think that's legit. Because, again, these people do have their own agendas. They're here to make money. They're here to become famous. That's fine within a reasonable boundary. But, again, if you're going to do that, you have to endure some questions. Some can be tough. Some can be civil. With Leah, let's keep it civil. But with Mike, he deserves the tough questions. It's been a long time coming, and he should be ready for it.